Despite currently sitting second in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes have had a very tough and underwhelming 2023 Formula One campaign, with morale likely at its lowest following the recent dismal showing at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. The team looks set to end the year without a race win for the first time since 2011, unless they can benefit from a Red Bull mistake in the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix or at the season finale in Abu Dhabi. The last Grand Prix victory for a Mercedes driver came when George Russell won in Brazil on the 13th of November last year, following his win in the sprint race held on the day before. That was the only win for the team last season, and so it's rather ironic that arguably their worst weekend of this year came at the same circuit. Their performance at Interlagos was shocking, but the team have struggled ever since the new regulations came into effect last season, a set of rules that they sacrificed development on their 2021 car to focus on. There have also been notable personnel departures in the squad, with the team undergoing many changes that have yet to have an obvious positive effect. The recent race left the drivers, management, and fans fuming, but can they really turn it around for next season, or will they be consigned to another year unable to challenge the top team Red Bull, who they are currently 400 points behind? The gap is even better illustrated by the fact that Max Verstappen has scored 142 points, more than the total of both the Mercedes drivers combined. The root cause of Mercedes' struggles was the fundamental aero design decision for 2022, which saw them unveil a car which shocked many of their rivals at preseason testing. The team's 2022 car, the W13, had barely noticeable side pods, with the design being dubbed the Zero Pod. Their rivals were initially scared that Mercedes had found a loophole which would see them continue to dominate the sport, but it was quickly proven to be deeply flawed. The car suffered very badly with porpoising and was clearly a worse concept than that of Red Bull and Ferrari. That year, they finished behind Ferrari and the now dominant Red Bull. Despite its clear failings, the team opted to stick with a zero-pod design for the start of this season, having solved some of the issues with upgrades last season and over the winter break. At the time, team principal Toto Wolff said that their sidepod design was not fundamentally the reason why they didn't perform, but that the sidepods would eventually change. They eventually debuted a new sidepod design, abandoning the zero pod at the season's 6th round, with Lewis Hamilton saying at the time that he had been counting the days until the upgrades arrive. This big upgrade in Monaco improved the car, but not anywhere near enough to challenge Red Bull. Wolff said that the data showed that they were moving forward. At the race immediately after Monaco, they had their best Grand Prix of the season so far, with a 2-3 finish in Spain. Hamilton also managed to get his first pole since 2021 in Hungary, at which point Wolff said that the ground effect cars were an enigma, being very hard to understand how they were going to behave at each round. The team brought further upgrades to the car before the summer break in both Britain and Belgium, and insisted that it was still worth upgrading the W14 to aid their learning and understanding for the next year. However, since the end of the summer break, they have only had 2 podium finishes compared to the 7 scored by their own customer team, McLaren, who have also recorded a sprint race win in this period. The team's most recent big upgrade came at the United States Grand Prix, where they introduced a new floor. That was 3 races ago, and Wolff has said that the car is less tricky to drive since then, with Hamilton saying that it was the first upgrade from which he had felt a change in the car in 2 years. However, the effects again haven't been clear, and after Hamilton took back-to-back second-place finishes on the road in Austin and Mexico City, the team had a disaster in Brazil. The drivers qualified 4th and 5th in the sprint shootout, only behind the 2 Red Bull drivers and Lando Norris, and both gained positions at the start of the sprint. However, they then rapidly lost pace and ended up finishing 4th and 7th. Russell, who was the higher-placed Mercedes driver, finished 25 seconds behind sprint winner Verstappen in the 24-lap race, whilst Hamilton was a further 9 seconds back. For the Grand Prix, the drivers started 5th and 8th, but it looked like it was going to be another very tough race, with Hamilton predicting it to be a long afternoon. Hamilton gradually fell from 5th to 8th in the race, finishing over a minute behind Verstappen, whilst Russell retired due to engine overheating, having run in 11th. Wolff described the poor performance as both baffling and unacceptable, whilst confirming that the team will have a fundamentally different car for 2024. He was so disappointed with the performance that he called it the team's worst weekend in 13 years. Russell also spoke about how their weakest race of the year came at the track where they had their best result of last season, summing up the team's confusion. The performance came just after it was confirmed that Mike Elliott, who was the technical director during the zero-pod design decision-making, had left the team after 11 years. The team will try hard to learn what they can over the final 2 rounds, as track time will be key to understanding where their lack of pace in Brazil came from. They will also be keen to hold second place in the standings, as they are currently just 20 points ahead of Ferrari.